All right, let's talk about tariffs, shall we? Those tiny little economic hand grenades that politicians seem to love lobbing at each other. Now, I know what you're thinking. Tariffs, Ian? That's about as exciting as watching paint dry on C-SPAN. But hold your horses, because these things have a nasty habit of blowing up in everyone's faces, not just the countries they're aimed at. See, tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, designed to make foreign products more expensive, and give domestic industries a leg up. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, buckle up, because the law of unintended consequences is about to take this whole thing for a wild ride. We're talking retaliatory tariffs, economic downturns, and enough collateral damage to make you wonder if anyone bothered to read the instruction manual on this whole global trade thing. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into the murky waters of tariffs, exploring their far-reaching consequences and why they're about as effective as a chocolate fire guard in a heat wave. So grab your hard hats and let's get into it. You see, imposing tariffs isn't some kind of economic masterstroke. It's more like poking a badger with a stick. You're going to get a reaction and it's not going to be pretty. When one country slaps tariffs on another, it's like a giant screw you written on a very expensive invoice. The inevitable response? Retaliation, baby. The other country isn't just going to take that lying down, they're going to hit back with their own tariffs, and suddenly, we're in a full-blown trade war. It's like a tennis match played with economic hand grenades, and guess who gets caught in the crossfire? Industries that rely on international trade, that's who. Farmers, manufacturers, they all get hammered as exports plummet and the cost of doing business skyrockets. Now, some folks might argue that a little economic protectionism never hurt anyone. But here's the thing. Tariffs don't just hurt the countries they're aimed at. They drag the whole global economy down with them. Think of it like this. Global trade is the lifeblood of the world economy, and tariffs are like injecting it with a big old dose of cholesterol. Suddenly everything slows down. Imports and exports dwindle, businesses hesitate to invest, and that dreaded R-word recession starts getting bandied about. You see, tariffs create uncertainty, and uncertainty is the kryptonite of economic growth. But Ian, I hear some of you cry, what about protecting American jobs? Well, here's the kicker: tariffs often do more harm than good on the job front. Sure, they might temporarily prop up a few industries, but at what cost? Because while some companies might see a short-term boost, many others, particularly those reliant on exports, get slammed. And as those industries struggle, the job losses start to mount. We're talking manufacturing, retail, small businesses. They all feel the pinch as costs rise and markets shrink. It's like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. You might put out a few flames, but you're just going to make the whole damn thing worse. Let's talk about supply chains for a second, shall we? Now, global companies rely on these intricate networks to source materials and manufacture products efficiently. It's a complex dance, but when it works beautifully. But then, along come tariffs, stomping all over the dance floor like a drunken ox in a china shop. Suddenly, sourcing materials becomes a nightmare. Delays pile up, costs skyrocket, and companies are forced to scramble for alternative suppliers, often at a much higher price. It's like playing Jenga with the global economy. You might be able to pull out a few blocks, but eventually the whole thing is going to come crashing down. You know, it's almost as if the people who advocate for tariffs have never actually met another country. Because here's a newsflash. Tariffs don't just hurt economies, they damage relationships. When you slap tariffs on a key ally or trading partner, you're essentially telling them, hey buddy, we don't trust you, and we don't care about your economic well-being. Not exactly the best way to win friends and influence people, is it? This kind of economic aggression erodes trust, stalls negotiations, and weakens cooperation on critical global issues. It's like trying to solve a puzzle by setting fire to the pieces. You're not going to get very far. Now, if there's one thing businesses hate more than anything, it's uncertainty. And boy, oh boy, do tariffs bring the uncertainty. See, when tariffs are flying around like confetti at a bad wedding, businesses have no idea what the future holds. Prices become unpredictable, earnings become erratic, and investment dries up faster than a puddle in Death Valley. It's like trying to navigate a ship through a hurricane with a blindfold on. You might get lucky, but chances are you're going to crash and burn. You know, when it comes to tariffs, farmers are often the first casualties. See, agriculture relies heavily on international trade, Those soybeans, those almonds, that delicious, delicious corn, a lot of it ends up overseas. But when tariffs rear their ugly heads, those foreign buyers often look elsewhere for their agricultural fix. The result? Farm incomes plummet, rural economies take a nosedive, and suddenly, the government is scrambling for bailout funds like a toddler searching for a dropped cookie. It's a vicious cycle that hurts everyone involved, except maybe those lucky ducks selling bailout-funded cookies, I guess. Now, some folks might think that high tariffs would deter people from buying foreign goods. But here's the thing about humans. We're a resourceful bunch, especially when it comes to saving a buck or two. And when those tariffs make legal imports prohibitively expensive, well, that's when the smugglers start rubbing their hands together with glee. Suddenly, those illegal trading routes start looking very appealing. Goods flow across borders under the cover of darkness, tax revenues take a hit, and we all run the risk of ending up with counterfeit products. It's like trying to stop a river with a sieve. You're just creating a more chaotic, less regulated flow. So there you have it, folks, tariffs, the economic equivalent of playing with fire while standing in a pool of gasoline. They might seem like a quick fix, a way to protect domestic industries and stick it to those pesky foreigners, but in reality, they're a blunt instrument that often causes more harm than good. They spark trade wars, disrupt global trade, cost jobs, disrupt supply chains, damage relationships, create uncertainty, hurt farmers, and fuel illegal activities. Honestly, the list of unintended consequences is longer than a CVS receipt. It's time to face facts. Tariffs are not the answer. They're a relic of a bygone era, a simplistic solution to a complex problem. We need to be smarter, more strategic, and more cooperative in our approach to international trade. Because in the interconnected world we live in, economic isolationism is a recipe for disaster.